Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pushing the Limits Talk Radio Show and Podcast with your host, Leonard Cardinelli. For those of you who didn't know, Brian Shapiro is on the road. He is going to be at the AmFest convention tomorrow and may debate Myron Gaines. So that's something that you may want to look out for. I'm sure it'll be a great debate, and everyone has told Brian, to be safe. It's a big crowd, and there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world out there. Moving on. There's so much news to get to. We're so glad to have you. We got the holidays coming up. I want to wish everyone a happy holiday and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Kwanzaa for everyone, so that we kind of cover all the bases. I don't know exactly what the schedule is for next week, but I'm sure Brian will get to it at some point and let everybody know how it's going to go through the holidays. I myself will be in town, and my whole family's coming into town, and we have some really good celebrations set up. We're probably going to have quite a bit of fun and probably too much food as well. So starting in the news, let's start with Trump. And last night, how he decided to give a speech, and he announced it. And, some of the congressmen were saying that they might announce having a war with Venezuela. And we'll get to that. We'll talk about that a bit later. We'll take a break at some point. Later on, we'll be taking your calls. And when you call in, basically we could talk about anything. Your concerns, your opinions on the current news of the day. I thought Trump's speech last night, which, was supposed to be such a big deal and such anticipation, and they actually put it on at the same time as the final night of the Survivor Series, and so people were not happy about that. But basically it was a nothing burger. He didn't really say anything. He just said, "Oh, pat on the back for me, and we're doing a great job in the economy, and inflation is down," and obviously they're not reporting the real numbers, because the real numbers would show otherwise. We lost jobs in November, and it looks like the inflation is going up. Today, the Fed had to talk about how the central banks can't find anyone to pick up the $9 trillion debt that's been formed. And so none of the market wants any part of it. So they are going to, it looks like they're going to vote to print new money. And they're planning on printing about $500 billion a year until they catch up, which, and that's just going to cause more inflation. So I don't really see where they're going with that, but I guess they have to do something at this point. First clip is CNN. Daniel Dale. If you know him, he's kind of a numbers guy, and he's a fact checker guy for CNN, and he does a great job. And he points out, he fact checks Trump's speech from last night and points out all the outlandish lies. And he said, he made a comment that Trump lied about so many different things that he had a tough time getting through it all. Let's take a listen to the clip.
Daniel, obviously we heard a lot from the president squeezed into those 15 minutes that were allotted to him. The White House makes that request to the networks. What did you hear in the president's remarks?
Caitlin, that was a fact check it, half asleep kind of presidential speech. So many of these claims have been debunked so many times. For example, the president said inflation is stopped. As Harry pointed out, it's not stopped. It's 3%. In fact, September, that 3% rate was the fifth consecutive month inflation had increased. The president also said that he inherited the worst inflation. He said some might say in the history of the country. Again, he inherited 3% inflation in January. Even the 9.1% peak of the Biden era in June 2022 was about a 40-year high, not a 48-year high, nowhere close to the all-time high of more than 23%. He spoke of cutting prescription drug prices by 400 to 600%. Those figures are mathematically impossible. If you cut it by more than 100%, people would get paid to get their medications, which of course is not happening. He said the price of eggs has fallen, which is true, but then he said everything else is falling rapidly. Everything else is not falling rapidly. In fact, even on groceries in particular, far more products have increased in price this term than have decreased. He said again, he secured $18 trillion in investment. This year, that number is total fiction. Even the White House website uses a figure of 9.6 trillion. And my detailed review found that that figure is a wild exaggeration, accounting vague promises, vague, not even promises, and so on. He spoke of some states hitting $1.99 for gas. The lowest state average today is closer to $2.40. About 100 stations out of about 150,000 stations are below $2, according to the firm Gas Buddy. He also talked about immigration, made false claims there, saying that an army of 25 million people invaded the country under President Biden. Leaving aside this army rhetoric, the number was not even close to 25 million. It was under 11 million, and that counts millions of people who were rapidly expelled from the country. Crime was nowhere close to record high under President Biden. He has not settled, President Trump has not settled 8 wars. That list includes various wars, various situations that were not even wars, and some conflicts that have not actually been resolved. I could go on. I don't have time. So visit CNN.com, and we'll have a full list later.
So you have Daniel Dale there from CNN saying he just doesn't have enough time to get to everything because there were so many lies and misnomers and incredible. My thing is, it seems to me like, I don't know if President Trump just has the kind of brain where he can just live in a different reality and just say things are that they're not. The problem he's facing is not an affordability problem. It's proving, he's trying to prove that there's no affordability problem. And the issue for the Trump administration is we all go shopping, we all buy cars and houses and use our credit card, and we go to the grocery store and we have to buy presents for Christmas, and we're out there. And I can tell you that the prices have in some cases doubled. I go shopping at the grocery store, and I used to spend $75, $80 for basic groceries, and I'm now in the $150, $160 area. So I know that, and that's just 2 like medium-sized bags of groceries of necessary things I need for the house. So when they say that that the economy's okay, and by the way, it's worth mentioning, he said he would fix it in 24 hours. He said prices would go down within 24 hours and quickly, and you're going to like it, and none of that ever happened. So let's look at some statistics provided by CNN so we can get an idea of, and I know polls don't tell the whole story, but it tells quite a bit about what's going on. So Trump's approval rating on the economy stands at about 36%. And as you know, the MAGA base is somewhere between 33 and 35%. 1 out of 3 people is the MAGA base that will follow Donald Trump, as he said. Even if he shot someone on Fifth Avenue, they would still follow him. So when it gets down to the 36% level, it's going to be very hard for Donald Trump and his administration to recover on the economy, because the only people left are going to be independents and Democrats and people that are not necessarily diehard MAGAs. And so he's really struggling. And, I wanted to point that out. In the next graph, it asks who's more responsible for the current economy. Now, Trump's been there for, he was elected more than a year ago, and he's been in office since January 20th. So we're coming up on a year. In a month, it'll be the whole year. You can't have a president who made as many decisions as he's made, who's done as many damaging things to the economy, like the tariffs, like raising the debt ceiling in the big, beautiful, ugly bill. You can't have a president that makes those kinds of changes with executive orders and without going through Congress and possibly say that is not his economy. So even the public agrees that Trump is 57% responsible and Biden's 37%. But then again, when you're at that 37% or a third of the people, you're talking about probably the MAGA base. On the next graph, Trump is focused on, they're asking whether he's focused on the wrong things or the right things. And we all kind of know what that means. Is he focusing on what's best for Americans, or is he worried about foreign policy and making money somewhere else? And right here you can see that 58%, way more than half of Americans, almost 6 in 10, say that he's focused on the wrong things, that he needs to get focused on not going in and bombing Venezuela so he can get oil and not saying he's fixing, all the wars. By the way, he said he fixed the conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, and Thailand just bombed Cambodia again along the border. There's a long-standing border dispute, and there is no peace there. And so he keeps claiming that he prevented all these wars. And by the way, he has almost half of our fleet over in the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean getting ready to attack Venezuela. And he's supposed to be the president with no wars. He's not going to have any wars, and he's going to solve all the wars. So again, talking out of the wrong side of his mouth. The next graph shows what people say about which party can better handle the economy. And you have here 33%. Can we move that over just a little bit? So in September, 39% of Republicans, and now 33%. And in September, 26% of Democrats, and now 37%. So you can see there's an 11-point shift in people saying that the Democrats are more prepared to handle the economy. And there's a 6-point shift in less people saying that the Republicans are the best to handle the economy. And I think the reason for that is the Democrats are supporting the people that are about to lose their ACA subsidies. They support having medical coverage for all. Me personally, you want to know my position, we should have universal health care for all, just like Canada does. And we can't even get the subsidies to help the people on Obamacare. 22 million people are going to lose their coverage. And these are real statistics. These are people that are going to lose. They had a person on the other day, an economist on, I think, MSNBC, saying that the average person is going to go, their premium pay will go up 114%. And some people who are paying about $900 or so are going to be in the $2,000 and $3,000 a month. And many, many people, approximately 58% of those people, say that they're not even going to have health insurance. So what happens, God forbid they have a catastrophic incident in their life, and now they can't afford medical coverage. And, they're saying they're only one bad medical incident away from having to go bankrupt because they don't have any coverage. And how important medical coverage is to people. And when you get those bills from the hospital, your child can break their arm or fall and get a couple of stitches, and the next thing you know, a couple of months later, you get a bill in the mail, and it's like $17,000 for a cast and a broken arm and whatever prescription medicine. And so people can't afford that kind of bill. They need to have health care coverage. So now, let me move on really quickly. Since we're talking about the economy, I also want to mention the check that Trump said he's going to give to the military, the warrior check. He's going to give to the military, $1,776, and it's in celebration of, our existence for 250 years. But what's really going on with that is they're just moving money from one account to the other. So basically, the military gets a housing check. So the Trump administration is taking that housing check, that allotment that they get anyway, and he's putting his name on it and sending it out as if it's a gift, as if it's on top of what they would have gotten. So it's just their housing allowance in a different form with Trump's name on it. So that's not really, in my opinion, that's not really anything special as usual. But let's hear what Adam Mockler has to say. Adam Mockler, good friend of the show, very popular online, has millions of people that love him. And he's reporting the Trump administration has stopped releasing the inflation report, the jobs report, and the GDP report. They're covering up the crash, the economical crash, while they rig the economy for the top 5 or 10%. And Adam Mockler says, at this point, we're flying blind.
There is something very fishy going on with the United States economy. Month after month, the Trump administration has been covering up key economic data by simply not releasing it, refusing to release the inflation report. Then shortly after that, the jobs report was stopped by the Trump administration. The GDP report has been delayed over and over and over because this admin is trying to cover up bad economic data. The Trump administration is currently trying to create this dueling economy for the top 10% then pull the wool over the eyes of the average American who actually does have to visit the grocery store, who actually does go to something like Walmart or Costco or Target on a weekly basis to shop for their family over and over and over. The average American is not a part of this oligarchical class that Donald Trump is catering to. Trump ran as a populist, somebody who's going to help the working class, but he's governing like an oligarch. Since Trump has gotten into office, unemployment is up, inflation is up, the deficit is up, and the Trump admin is trying to hide all of these figures.
Well, there you go. Our good friend Adam Mockler just saying it like he usually does, as truthfully and as accurately as possible. And for people who are still walking around, for those MAGAs that are walking around in, I guess, what can be described as a different reality, saying that they support Trump and he's the best for the economy, that 33% or whatever it was, obviously don't care about their own best self-interest. They would rather see everybody in America, in our population, have a difficult time. And let's be clear. There's no billionaires that are having an affordability crisis. So if you're a billionaire or a multimillionaire, you're in the hundreds of millions, you're not worried about an affordability crisis. And for some reason, these Republicans, most of the Republicans, have decided that they don't really care, that they're not going to stand up to Trump. Marjorie Taylor Greene is kind of coming out of the woodwork a little bit. Some of the other Republicans in the House of Representatives are starting to turn on Trump. We're going to do a piece a little bit later on Susie Wiles. We're going to go into a little bit of what she said. Some viewers believe that what she said was not that bad or it was strategic. I personally think that it was very, very damaging, because not only did she say things that were negative, she confirmed things that we weren't sure about or that the Trump administration tried to lie about, and she confirmed that they in fact happened. So moving on, we're going to get to what I call whiny Mike Johnson. He looks so upset these days and stressed out, and he tries to speak with a smile, but he's really struggling. And I believe, if I had to take a guess, I would say Mike Johnson might last another month or two, and there's a good chance, because of these discharge petitions. When you have these discharge petitions, and Republicans are jumping on board with Democrats, that could be a recipe for voting in a new speaker. So let's see what Mike Johnson had to say about him losing control of the House.
Have you lost control of the House?
I have not lost control.
Because this is the third time.
Look, we have the smallest majority in U.S. history. Okay? These are not normal times. There are processes and procedures in the House that are less frequently used when there are larger majorities. And when you have the luxury of having 10 or 15 people who disagree on something, you don't have to deal with it.
Okay, so my take is, when you have to publicly say to reporters from CNN and others, I haven't lost control of the House, you can be pretty sure he lost control of the House. He's scrambling. He has people that are turning against him and talking badly about him all the time now. It's a regular thing, and he decided, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, decided to send everybody home for the holidays today. The session was supposed to end tomorrow. He said he's not going to wait until tomorrow, and we all know that has to do with the Epstein files coming out, and we know it has to do with breaking the law. Will they release the files? And we will get to that a little bit later. I think we have some clips on that. But let's see what House Representative Maxwell Alejandro Frost, who I happen to like very much, he announced the discharge petition has enough votes to go to the floor, telling the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, not to send everyone home for the holidays and to force a vote on the petition.
Hey everybody, Congressman Maxwell Frost here. I'm in Washington, D.C. Breaking news alert here. We've gotten enough Republicans to sign on to our discharge petition to extend the Affordable Care Act tax subsidies. What the hell does that mean? It means that now Speaker Mike Johnson must bring a vote to the floor so healthcare doesn't go up for 25 million Americans. Here's the problem. We think he might essentially stall this and wait till January after the holiday break for us to take this vote, but we need to take it now. People's healthcare is going up now. And so what we're saying is simple. Stop everything going on in Congress and put the vote on the floor. Do not let members of Congress go home for the holiday break and make us vote on this extension that the majority of both the House and the Senate are for. We need your help. Call your member of Congress. Tell them to demand that we not get sent on our holiday break until we vote on the health care of 25 million Americans.
And of course, I am in total agreement with Maxwell Frost, Representative Frost. And I am total agreement with that. But there is a rule in the House of Representatives, and I believe, and pretty sure it's 7 days. So even when the petition is signed and submitted, I think by law they have to wait 7 days, and I'm sure that's so they can read it if it's thousands of pages, or if somebody has items in there, or they're trying to slip something in that people were not ready for. But Mike Johnson is saying probably the soonest in his mind that it can be voted on is January 6th. Well, guess what? The ACA subsidies expire December 31st, and people are going to have to make a choice. Could it even if it happens in January, that's better than nothing, but they really need to vote on this now. And I think that this is costing the Republicans big time. They're losing a lot of people because they're hesitating on this, and it's clear that they don't want to help out the people with their health care subsidies who are going to go broke and not be able to have health care. And like I ask all the time on this show and even in my personal life with my friends and my family, it's what kind of people, when you talk about Republicans and Democrats and independents, what about humanity? What kind of people are okay with children and families and grandmothers and uncles and aunts and people losing their health care, not being able to go to the hospital, not being able to pay their bills, not being able to afford to go to school and be fed lunch because they're canceling the SNAP program. Babies not being fed, not having milk and the necessities because they canceled the WIC program because they think that socialism is a bad word. But these are the same people. The Republicans, the rich businessmen, the billionaires, the oligarchs, these are the same people that drive to work and to their homes on public roads with public lighting and public sewage systems and public parks and police and fire and medical, and you can call 911 and people will come. Well, that's all paid for by taxes. That is almost the definition of socialism. What is the problem? And by the way, they get tax breaks. The corporations get welfare. They get corporate welfare in the form of tax abatements and tax cuts and loopholes in the system. So how is that not corporate welfare? But you know what? They hate it. They hate it, and they want to make sure that no one gets coverage, no one gets health care, like Canada, where there's universal health care for all. And I happen to be a big supporter of universal health care for all. Moving on. Now we're going to get in a little bit about Susie Wiles. And this is a clip of Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC, who I like Lawrence O'Donnell very much. He's a former politician. He's an attorney. And if I ever need an attorney, I would love to have him because he can really put together a case on someone. So let's listen to what he has to say about Susie Wiles' negative view of President Trump, saying he has an alcoholic's personality.
Susie Wiles' breathtaking incompetence has been on display every day of the Trump administration, but she goes to a new level of incompetence in statements that she made to Chris Whipple on tape that she cannot now refute, and are the most harmful things ever said publicly about a president by that president's White House chief of staff. Here is Susie Wiles explaining how Donald Trump has matured. Remember, she's trying to compliment him now. She's explaining how a 79-year-old man is now behaving better than he did at 74. She said, I've not seen him throw anything. I've not seen him scream. I didn't see that really horrible behavior that people talk about and that I actually experienced years ago. So there she is, ascribing horrible behavior to Donald Trump that she has seen. Imagine being so dim that you think you can say something like that to a reporter who's taking notes and recording what you're saying, and he's going to publish it. She said, Trump has an alcoholic's personality. He operates with a view that there's nothing he can't do, nothing, zero, nothing. And Susie Wiles believes her job is to encourage that alcoholic personality, enable that alcoholic personality.
And this is not really a comment about alcoholics necessarily, because alcoholism is a disease, and we understand that, and it's can be very difficult to control. And I think that Susie Wiles used a bad description. I know that alcoholics can be dangerous because they're capable of anything, and they can go through the day and say or do whatever they want, and by the nighttime they're so out of it, it doesn't matter what they do. So I understand why she made it, but I think it was a bad reference. I think it was really kind of embarrassing. Some of her quotes in relation to the alcoholic's personality, Susie Wiles is saying, some clinical psychologist that knows 1 million more times than I do, and this is Susie speaking, will dispute what I'm going to say, but high-functioning alcoholics or alcoholics in general, their personalities are exaggerated when they're drunk. And I'm just a little bit of an expert in big personalities. And she says he operates with a view that there's nothing he can't do. Nothing, zero, nothing. Okay, so I think comparing him to an alcoholic was a bad analogy. If you want to use sociopath, megalomaniac, if you want to use psychotic, things like that, those are the types of personality disorders that we're talking about, because alcoholism is a disease, and I do have empathy for people who get such a disease that they're damaging themselves, and there's nothing they can do about it. That's just the way it is. Moving on, Susie Wiles also said that Elon Musk is a drug user. Quote, the challenge with Elon Musk is keeping up with him. He's an avowed ketamine user, she said, adding that Musk is an odd duck, as I think geniuses are. So this is her talking about Elon Musk, and you can't tell me that Elon Musk is flattered by those comments when she talked about the Jeffrey Epstein files. Quote, he's not in the file doing anything awful. The president and the convicted sex offender, she said, were young, single playboys together. Now, if that's not trying to mitigate and minimize something that is obviously on the minds of all Americans, because you had big, powerful people, oligarchs, billionaires, allegedly on Epstein's Island, and there were underage girls, and as a result of it, Ghislaine Maxwell went to prison for trafficking underage girls. And we also saw that Jeffrey Epstein himself went to jail. Now, his charges were mitigated and there was a deal made, but he still was put in jail for these crimes. So it's not like somebody made it up and it never happened. It did happen. And we have proof. What she said about the Venezuela boat strikes, quote, he wants to keep on blowing up boats until Maduro cries uncle. And people way smarter than me on that say he will, she said. So they're saying that he has no inclination to stop. He doesn't want to stop. And so she's agreeing with that. She's confirming that. You can't tell me that this is a strategy. You can't tell me that she's trying to make him look good or trying to set up something for later, because that just makes the president look bad by confirming. She's chief of staff. She has intimate conversations sitting across the desk or sitting in the same room with the president of the United States. The chief of staff is in on everything. They know everything. They know all the secrets. They make the plans. And so what she says, in my mind, is very, very important and relevant. When it comes to Pete Hegseth's signal debacle, quote, she says, the burden's on us to make sure that national security conversations are preserved, she said. In this case, Jeff Goldberg did it for us, which makes no sense, because she's saying that the reporter who got a hold of the signal chat, because Pete Hegseth was texting the plans to attack in real time and included a reporter, That's not how you have accountability. It was a mistake. It was classified information. It was on a public signal chat, which may later on, come back to be considered criminal. It does have that possibility. The Pentagon's Inspector General determined this month that Pete Hegseth violated Defense Department policy by discussing those plans in a non-secure setting. So the Inspector General said that he violated Defense Department policy. And not to mention, he endangered all of the military personnel. He endangered the mission. He endangered the operation. And it was embarrassing. It was really an embarrassment to the entire world, because America is supposed to be, one of the best militaries on the planet, one of the most organized. But when you take a weekend Fox host and you put him in charge of make him the Secretary of Defense with no experience in that area, and not put someone who's a 25-year general or 25 or 30-year admiral who's been through it, who's seen battle, who's been in charge of large groups of people, these are the kind of mistakes you might get. So Susie Wiles, talking about Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance's transition into being Trump loyalists, Wiles said she believes Secretary of State Marco Rubio's change of heart about Trump was sincere. Derided by Trump as Little Marco, Rubio called Trump a con artist. He's Marco Rubio is a Secretary of State, by the way, and a third world strongman, while challenging him for the 2016 GOP nomination, a time when Marco Rubio was telling it like it is. He was telling the truth. Quote, Marco was not the sort of person that would violate his principle. He just won't, Wiles said, which makes no sense. It just makes Rubio and Susie Wiles look more ridiculous. Vance, however, became pro-Trump, quote, when he was running for the Senate, she said. And I think his conversation was a little bit more sort of political. She's talking about J.D. Vance, who said that the president was America's Hitler and said absolutely terrible things about him. And then Susie Wiles spoke about Trump's sexist insults and his recent comments toward female reporters. Wiles said, quote, he's a counterpuncher, and increasingly in our society, the punchers are women. So what does that even mean? I mean, is she anti-women like him? How about when the reporter asks you a question you don't like, you say, you know what, I'm not prepared to answer that, or I don't like that question, or do you have another question? But to say, quiet piggy, or you're stupid, you're from a really bad, fake news network, and calling women to their face on camera as the president of the United States, stupid to their face for just doing their job. They're just there doing their job. And sometimes doing your job as a reporter, as you know, involves asking some of the difficult questions. That's just part of it. And then she was asked about a third term. Wiles denied that Trump will be running for a third term, as he suggested. Quote, be sure he's going to have fun with it, whatever that means. Wiles said, adding that he knows it's, quote, driving people crazy. So it's a big joke. He's going to violate the Constitution. He's going to get around the 22nd Amendment. He's going to find a way. And Steve Bannon, by the way, has been on the news saying that they have 5 or 6 different strategies for challenging the Constitution, for challenging the fact that Trump can run for a third term. So they're totally preparing for this fight. No one's doing it as a joke, as they keep going back to when they said, when Trump said, if you elect me, I'll have the war between Ukraine and Russia settled before I'm inaugurated, which never happened. He said 24 hours. I'll just call Vladimir. We'll just have a chat. And that never happened. And then a few months later, Trump is saying, well, I think I'm starting to think Vladimir is just shining me on. I think he's lying to me. But we all knew the whole time that he was lying to him. So Wiles' quote says, sometimes he laments, gosh, I feel like we're doing really well. I wish I could run again. And then he immediately says, not really. I will have served 2 terms and I'll have gotten done. And what I need to get done is probably to give somebody else a chance. So, any given day, right? but he knows he can't run again. This is Susie saying the last part. She says again. And so I know reading it, I'm sorry, I know it sounds nonsensical, but those are the words that they use. That's a quote. So I know that it sounds like it's like, well, what did he just say? Because he's trying to leave the door open to obviously he wants to run again, and I don't know if his health is going to hold up. Some people speculate that his health is doing really badly. He's got this big bruise on his hand. It looks to me, and I'm not a doctor or an expert, but I'm familiar. I had classes as a police officer for 25 years. I had classes on bruising and cuts and gunshot wounds, and we had to have a certain amount of expertise. And his hand and his wrist kind of looks to me like it's not from shaking hands. It maybe from like a blood thinners. Maybe he's on heavy blood thinners or something like that, because people bruise really easily when they're on blood thinners for their heart. And like I said, I'm not a doctor, but that mark is, when I was a union president for several years, I shook a lot of hands every day. I went to the legislature, shook everyone's hand all day long, and I never bruised. So my hand never even got sore. So I don't know where they're getting that from. So when Susie Wiles was asked about Trump's retribution tour, quote, she said, in some cases it may look like retribution, and there may be an element of that from time to time. Would you blame him? Not me. He then acknowledged that I'm sorry, that was the end of the quote. So she's trying to say that it was definitely a retribution tour. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me finish it. She says he then acknowledged that the Justice Department's pursuit of mortgage fraud charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James, who won a civil fraud case against Trump and his company, quote, might be the right retribution. So she's admitting that these cases that he's bringing and these charges that he's bringing are retribution. I think that's a terrible thing for the chief of staff to do. I think it's terribly misguided. And, later on, if you want to call in, we're going to open the lines later. If you want to call in and you want to disagree with me that it was a strategy or it wasn't as hurtful as it was, be my guest, because we will be taking calls a little bit later. Moving on. So Senator Chris Murphy says he just came out of a briefing with Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth on the military strikes in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. Here's what I learned. He says, bottom line, there is no legal national security justification for what they've done, not even close. Let's hear the clip.
So I just came from this classified briefing, the first that I have received, that the full Senate has received, on the military strikes in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Pacific. Well, I obviously can't tell you any classified information I learned. I can tell you this, that the administration had no legal justification for these strikes and had no national security justification for these strikes. Let me just get to the question of the national security justification. What they did admit is that there's no fentanyl coming to the United States from Venezuela. Venezuela is mainly exporting cocaine, but almost all of the cocaine that is coming out of Venezuela into the Caribbean isn't going to the United States, it's going to Europe. And so we are spending billions of your taxpayer dollars to wage a war in the Caribbean to stop cocaine from going from Venezuela to Europe. That is a massive waste of national security resources and of your taxpayer dollars. What we also learned is that there's no legal justification for what is happening right now in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Pacific. The president in this briefing, his Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State, said that the justification legally is that these cartels are designated by the president as terrorist organizations. Okay, the president does have the ability to designate certain groups as terrorist organizations, but that does not give him the ability or the authorization to carry out military strikes. A designated terrorist organization allows the president to impose sanctions on those organizations and those individuals, or deny passports to the leaders of those organizations. Only Congress, only the American public can authorize war, and there is just no question that these are acts of war that the U.S. military is undertaking. So that's the bottom line, is that this briefing, which by the way was only about 45 minutes long, the shortest classified briefing that I have ever been a part of, they scurried out of there before they could actually get asked any tough questions. The bottom line is that this briefing made it clear that there is no legal justification for what is happening in the Caribbean, and there is absolutely no national security justification.
Okay, so that was Senator Chris Murphy right after he was briefed by Secretary of State Rubio and Secretary of Defense or War Pete Hegseth, saying that there's no legal justification. And by the way, if you want to declare war, you have to go through Congress. Unless we're being attacked, this is the Constitution. Unless we're being attacked, unless they have boots on the ground in our country, of course the president can declare war anytime America's safety is at risk. But let's see what Trump said about this, about fentanyl in Venezuela. Let's play the clip.
Iraq, or Syria. Previous presidents told us to go to war over WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, that did not exist. Now it's the same playbook, except we're told that drugs are the WMDs. If it were about drugs, we'd bomb Mexico,
So
or China,
I skipped a
or
clip.
Colombia.
Sorry about.
And the president.
I'm newer at this than Brian is. So the clip we're listening to is going to be Thomas Massey destroying Trump's argument for attacking Venezuela. WMDs has no good reason and they hold no water.
Libya, Iraq, or Syria. Previous presidents told us to go to war over WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, that did not exist. Now it's the same playbook, except we're told that drugs are the WMDs. If it were about drugs, we'd bomb Mexico, or China, or Colombia. And the president would not have pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez. This is about oil and regime change.
Okay, so that clip, and perhaps many of you listening would be thinking the same thing. That reminds me of the Bay of Pigs, does it not? If you think about the Bay of Pigs, 1961, John F. Kennedy taking CIA agents and secretly training 1,200 guerrilla fighters from Cuba to turn on the government because they want regime change. And it was supposed to go really smoothly, and they came in. America attacked, from the water, no air support, and they basically lost in 2 days. It only lasted 2 days, if you remember the history on that. That's our American, well, maybe even world history. But what happened was, when Cuba found out what America was up to, they enhanced their relationship with Russia and other communist countries. In fact, they became quite close to Russia. And you could argue that the debacle in the Bay of Pigs trying to change the regime resulted in the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's probably a big reason that there was a Cuban Missile Crisis. And remember, in the last 80 plus years, it would be hard to point to any regime change that America has caused that was positive. It either did nothing, or the person that stepped in during the regime change made it worse. So that was just something that came into my mind when I was listening to it, thinking, doesn't Trump and Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and the administration and the Department of War and all these warmongers, don't they realize that? Can't they look at history and say, we've been through this and it didn't go well. Maybe there's a better tactic. Maybe we don't have to put up blockades, stopping oil coming in and out of Venezuela. And the next clip is actually President Trump himself trying to declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. Obviously, he's putting the cart after the horse, before the horse, and trying to prove that he has a reason to attack Venezuela before he actually does so. Let's listen.
That's why today I'm taking one more step to protect Americans from the scourge of deadly fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which is what it is. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
Wow. So fentanyl is not really coming out of Venezuela, and it's certainly not going to America. And these fishing style boats that are being blown up, if you watch the reports last week, this is a little bit of news from last week, not necessarily this week, those boats would have to refuel 4 or 5 or 6 times before they even reach the shores of America. And nobody knows how they would even accomplish that. The greater majority of drugs coming out of Venezuela, as I said, is cocaine, mostly going to the Europeans. So maybe that's why the Europeans have so much more energy than we do, because they said tons of cocaine are going from Venezuela to Europe. So once again, it's hard to figure out. I guess it's not hard. It's fairly easy to see that they're trying to justify going into Venezuela. And first it was the illegal drug runners, then it was a terrorist organization, then it was fentanyl, then it was the oil tankers that are sanctioned. So the tankers are sanctioned from the country where the oil's coming from or going to. And now recently Trump says, by the way, Venezuela stole our oil. And I think he blamed the Biden administration, and he says, now we have to go back and get it. So really American, who's online, reports that a deranged Trump accused Venezuela of taking America's oil. Quote, "We had a lot of oil there. They threw our companies out, and we want it back. Nothing about drugs here. He's going to start a war over oil." Let's play the clip.
Yeah, what was that? Getting land, oil rights, whatever we had, they took it away because we had a president that maybe wasn't watching. But they're not going to do that. We want it back. They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
Okay, so that's a clip from Really America, and obviously Trump not making sense, desperate to get into the country, but it's about money and oil. And some people believe that George Bush, did the same thing, said there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and we need to go in, and we blacktopped the country, and we knocked down statues, and we occupied, and we searched buildings and kicked everyone out, and then we had lots of oil. So you have to question whether or not anything was learned by America by lying to the public, saying there were weapons of mass destruction when there were not. But keep in mind, I was there. I listened to the politics and the news of the day. And if you remember, when they were polling the Americans on attacking Iraq and other terrorist, sympathizers in countries, 81%, the polls were showing 81% that they wanted Bush to attack Iraq at the time. Now, if you fast forward to today, it's a very low percentage. It's probably in that 36% of Americans think it's okay to attack Venezuela. And again, that's that 1/3. That's that MAGA base that doesn't include independents, doesn't include Democrats, doesn't include people with common sense, doesn't include people with empathy who are real Americans and understand that that is not the right thing to do. Moving on, I did want to get a little clip in, on the Epstein files. They did. The news reported that 4 or 5 photos were released today without context. MSNBC reported that they showed the photos. One is of it looks like a female's calf and foot, and there's some writing on there. And in the background, you can see the book Lolita. And I guess I'm guessing I know the book a little bit. I read it, but I don't know if the quote on the lady's leg was from the book or they were just trying to show the book Lolita in, I guess, a sensual way. And if you remember, not to go into detail, but, the book Lolita has been banned in countries, and it was about a man who was obsessed with a 14-year-old girl, and all kinds of bad stuff followed, and it gets into politics, and it gets into cover-up and things like that. So interesting book if you want to read it. I digress. So Chuck Schumer, talking about the release of the Epstein files, talking to, not in Trump's presence, but speaking to Trump, quote, "Release the Epstein files. Congress passed a law. not a suggestion, not a request. The law requires the DOJ to release the files by Friday, December 19th. President Trump, what are you trying to hide? Let's play the clip.
Release the Epstein files. Congress passed a law, not a suggestion, not a request. The law requires DOJ to release the files by Friday, December 19th. In 3 days, President Trump has a choice. Follow the law and release the files, or break the law and continue to hide the truth from the American people. Let me be blunt. We fully expect Trump, Bondi, and their minions to dodge, delay, or partially release these files. If they release some documents and hide others, the American people will see right through it, and they'll ask the obvious question. We are all asking the obvious question that looms. President Trump, what are you trying to hide?
So there you go. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who, I know it had to be said, so he said it, but you know what, everyone, my opinion, you can call later if you disagree or not, but I think Chuck Schumer needs to step aside. We need to get some new blood in there, some young people, some people who can, with new ideas, who have more energy and are willing to push back against the conservative Republicans and the shady MAGAs, and is willing to stand up to them, much like Gavin Newsom is doing in California. So I'm glad that Chuck took the time, to point that out. But the real issue, the bigger issue, besides what Chuck Schumer said, is that tomorrow, I believe there's a midnight deadline from what I have gleaned. The full Epstein files have to be released by the Department of Justice, including all of the photos, and I think there's over 100,000 photos that haven't been released, including the video from the video surveillance cameras, including the bank transactions. What's going to happen when JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank and all these banks have to show the money flow and who the money flowed from and to? And then there's a rumor, and I'll put it out as a rumor because I don't think there's any proof of this yet. There's a rumor that there was a lot of money laundering going on because obviously Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were taking in a lot of cash and a lot of money. Another photo they showed today on the news was of a text string where they're talking about a young lady, and they're talking to someone named Jay, and we don't know who that is, and we don't know the context, but they were talking about paying $1,000. And I believe the country of origin where she was from was Russia. And then there was another picture of a passport, and appears to be from a Russian female. And there was also a photo of Bill Gates standing next to a female. And again, no context, no details, just photos that were released by the Democrats in the Oversight Committee. And the photos were given to the Democrats on behalf of the Epstein estate. So the Epstein estate provided photographs, and I'm guessing that the Dems put it out today to preempt some kind of curiosity so that they can put some pressure on, so they're not able to just sweep this under the rug. And let's face it, if there were really Democrats, and I don't care, and Brian Shapiro is the same way, the host of this show. He agrees. If there's Democrats in the Epstein files, too bad. Then they have to get charged. If they were breaking the law, if they were trafficking young girls, if they were engaging in prostitution, if they were paying money to 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls, and whether it was Democrats or Republicans, they need to be charged with a crime. And I think just about everyone would agree to that. And then they say, well, Joe Biden had the files for 4 years, and he didn't do anything. What about that? Well, Donald Trump has the files now, and there's a subpoena to release them, and he can release them at any time. He doesn't have to wait for the law to change. He didn't have to wait for Congress to do something. And by the way, it was a unanimous on both sides, the Senate and the House, to fully release all the files from the DOJ. Obviously, the victims' names are going to be redacted, but we'll see. And I may be here next week saying, I was wrong about that. But I don't believe Trump and the DOJ and Pam Bondi are going to release anything significant. I think it's going to be redacted and missing pages and not the whole report, and saying that we opened investigations against Democrats who are in the files and it's all secret. And my thing is, if there's nothing bad in there, why are they doing everything in their power for months and months to make sure that the real information doesn't come out? I think we all know the answer to that. We have a break coming up at the top of the hour. Following that, we'll be taking your phone calls at 702-221-7283. 702-221-7283. I would wait a few minutes before I call in, but once we do open the lines, they fill up really fast. And if you have to wait a little bit, I apologize, but we will try to get to everyone. One more thing I want to talk about is Trump renaming the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center. And Trump is, let's face it, he's not even close to what Kennedy was. Kennedy was someone who wanted to bring people together. Okay, he was inclusive. He was not exclusive. He was someone that I believe was trying to be a good Christian, trying to spread peace in the world, take care of the economy, and do it with a measure of integrity. And so to compare the two, or to put the two on the same billboard or name of an institution, to me is ridiculous. Representative Joyce Beatty, a Dem from Ohio, who sits on the board, said she was muted during the meeting and could not voice her opposition. The vote was not unanimous. So if the Republicans are saying, or Trump is saying, that the vote was unanimous to put his name on the Kennedy Center, that is not accurate, according to the reporting that we have. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get to a break. We're going to help the producer, Numchuck, who is waving at me for unknown reason, that we have to reset. And we're going to reset on the other side. We're going to take your calls at 702-221-7283. This is Leonard Cardinelli on the Pushing the Limits Radio Talk Show podcast.
Too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that
AM829-680 North Las Vegas and KSHP.com.
the Unfuck America tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook, and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future, our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard. Just
Our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America Tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook, and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future, our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
All right, welcome back to the Pushing the Limits Talk Radio Show and podcast with your host Leonard Cardinelli, filling in for Brian Shapiro, who's going to the AmFest get-together tomorrow, and will possibly be debating again Marvin Gaines. And if you remember, he's debated Marvin Gaines before, and Marvin Gaines, in my opinion, he's a misogynist. He has nothing good to say about women, and he seems quite proud to be able to. He's supposed to be a lifestyle coach or an exercise coach or something like that also, which doesn't make any sense to me. But if you look up the video on YouTube between Marvin and Brian Shapiro, it's interesting if you really want to get an insight into Marvin's personality. And something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way the other day when it comes to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Republican, conservative, supposedly Christian. Again, it's not a small thing because he's the Speaker of the House, but he lied again. They were trying to, Manu Raju from CNN was trying to interview him, and he says, something like, "Come on, give me a break. I have the narrowest majority in Congress, in the House ever in history," he said. But that's not true, because from 1917 to 1919, the initial party breakdown left Republicans with 215 seats and Democrats with 214 seats, with the balance of power held by a handful of minority party lawmakers, progressive socialists, and a prohibitionist. So that's one time. And then in the 72nd Congress in 1931 to 1933, the Republicans had a one-seat majority, 217 Republicans, 216 Democrats, plus a farm labor member and a vacancy. So there you go. He's trying to overstate it and say, I have the narrowest margin in history, and it is a narrow margin, but it's not true. But I'm hoping, I'm praying that next year, after the midterms, that Democrats will have a majority, and if not a super majority, to be able to keep the president from vetoing any of the legislation. I'm hoping. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. So give us a call at 702-221-7283 and tell me what's on your mind. Talk about we had several subjects today. We have the economy. We have the Epstein files. We had the attacks in Venezuela, the Trump-Kennedy Center that has now changed its name. So give us a call and let us know what you think. First up, we have Scott. Hey, Scott, what's on your name? What's on your mind?
Good, what's on my name is Scott. Merry Christmas to you. I hope you're having a good
Scott,
holiday.
Merry Christmas to you also. Now, you're going to keep it positive today, right? You promise?
I'm going to make you laugh because the only weapon of mass destruction is Donald Trump's diarrhea in his diapers and his body odor and the way he talks about people in his Twitter thumbs. So,
did you see that video where they were kind of holding their noses and backing away and making? I don't know if it was real or not, but it was online.
No, but to go with what you're saying today, I'm having a good day, and I want to wish my fellow lefties that call in on this show a happy holiday. And if you're struggling, I hope that you get through it, that you have people in your life, don't be alone in this time of year. But,
that's nice of you, Scott. That's nice of you to say that, because sometimes you can be a little negative, and I'm really glad that that you're coming around, and you're a reformed a Republican, are you not?
No. I've never been a Republican in my life.
Good for
I
you.
registered. Hell no. I get disability. I've been in New York. I went to special ed. I actually went to Mike Dukakis' rally in '88. I went to a school in Forest Hills. No, I've always been. I registered initially as independent, but when Obama ran, I changed to Democrat. When Trump came down the escalator, I'm like, there's no way I'm not a Democrat. Now I'm a full Democrat all the way. So, no, I can't be with people that hate me.
Yeah, those MAGAs can be some very mean-spirited people. They don't seem to care if people die or don't have medical coverage or food. They just don't care.
Yeah. For them, I hope they get two things for Christmas: coal in their stocking and condoms so they can stop having inbred children.
Right.
So anyway, I'm glad I could make you laugh, and hope you're having a good holiday.
Yeah, you have a
I hope
Merry
everyone else
Christmas
is
and
too.
a Happy New Year, and thanks for the call, Scott.
All right, take care. Have a good one.
Okay, next up we have Ryan. Line 3, Ryan. Hey, Ryan, it's Leonard. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind, Leonard, is the people that were unemployed in November 2025 was 7.8 million.
How many?
7.8.
Where are you getting that statistic from?
What do you say?
Where are you getting that statistic from?
The statistics from I typed it in Bing network. The unemployment rate reached 4.6% in November 2025, with 7.8 people classified as unemployed. This figure reflects a slight increase with previous months. In September 2025, where the unemployment rate was 4.4% before.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and that sounds like a lot of people, but I was wondering because I don't think the Department of Labor is putting out accurate stats since Trump fired the commissioner, and I think if that 4.6% is you're saying is 8.7 million, I would have to say that the unemployment is way higher than that. And by the way, in December of 2024, before Trump was inaugurated, I believe in December of last year, we added something around 258,000 jobs. And in November, last month, we lost 32,000 jobs. So, but like Adam Mockler said, I don't know if you listened to the show earlier, but Adam Mockler pointed out that we are just not getting accurate statistics because Trump doesn't want people to know how badly the economy is actually doing. But
I know he's hiding stuff. He's hiding stuff like the Epstein files and stuff. He's hiding a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think what Trump doesn't understand is that it's not just about tricking Americans. The entire rest of the world depends on accurate Department of Labor statistics, and a lot of them rely on how the economy is doing in America because it affects their economy. It affects the economy all over the world. It affects our credit rating. It affects our ability to borrow and lend money.
Our education, it affects our education too.
I think we might have lost him.
Yeah, it affects our education too.
Say that again. I didn't understand what you said.
It affects our education too.
Yes, that's obviously is all tied in. But I don't think Donald Trump really grasps geopolitics. I think he doesn't grasp how tariffs affect the rest of the entire world, and he still thinks he said tariffs is his favorite word. And all it is taxing Americans, taxing businesses. So they tax the people, and it costs us all money. And I think he just doesn't understand. But thank you for the call. We always appreciate people calling in and give us statistics. Hopefully they're accurate. And next we have Ralph. Ralph, what's on your mind? This is Leonard.
Hi, Leonard. This is Ralph. You mentioned you were from Newark. I used to work at Newark Airport, and I was wondering. I used to go to Don's 21 and Weequahic Park. And
Oh, yeah.
What years? You remember Don's 21, the Italian restaurant? He was the former mayor before he went to jail.
Yeah, I remember Vesuvius on Bloomfield Avenue, and
I was just going to say that.
and
On Bloomfield
Calandra's
Avenue,
Bakery, and yeah,
The
I mean, I grew up going to those places.
apartments where all the stewardesses used to hang out.
Yeah, I mean,
by
yeah,
the
Newark Airport was a busy place, and I've been there many times. Flew in and flew out many times.
I used to work for TWA there. What years were you in Newark?
70s, 80s, something like that. So thanks for the call, Rob. I think the call may have dropped with Ralph talking about, I thought he was going to talk about the politics of today. We need to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a minute, 90 seconds or so.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn?
No caller.
That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America Tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future. Our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part, every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
Okay, we're back on Pushing the Limits, talking radio show with your host, Leonard Cardinelli, filling in for Brian Shapiro, who will be at the AmFest get-together tomorrow and maybe debating Marvin Gaines, which would be interesting. Hopefully next week or the week. I know we have Christmas coming up, but maybe there'll be some debates next week. I know Brian's been looking forward to bringing some people in that he's been debating. I don't want to expose any names, but I know he's working on a couple of things. But there was some breaking news and about Jack Smith. So Jack Smith was a special prosecutor who investigated Trump for the classified files that he had piled up in his bathroom and his studio in Mar-a-Lago. He also investigated the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. And so the news is reporting that Republicans are saying they immediately regret calling Jack Smith to testify. As he says on the record, he has absolutely zero regrets and would even charge Trump again if he could. Then Jack suggested if Trump didn't want to be indicted, he shouldn't have broke the law. Smith, quote, said, "If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether the president was a Republican or a Democrat." And, and I believe Jack Smith. I think he's a solid guy. He seems to have a lot of integrity. He really puts together a good case, a really good case. And Jack Smith added, "The decision to bring the charges against President Trump was mine." So he's owning it. But the basis for those charges rests entirely with the President Trump and his actions as alleged in the indictments returned by grand juries in 2 different districts. And Jack did add something to the effect where he said that he had proof beyond a reasonable doubt that these crimes were committed. And as you know, in the criminal court, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. Excuse me. And in a civil court, it's just a preponderance of the evidence. So for Jack Smith to say that he has evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, he's basically saying that he's confident that he can get a conviction as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And keep in mind, Jack Smith went to Congress and he said, "Hey, I want to testify, but if I testify, I want to testify on the record. I want it to be on television. I want it to be recorded. I want the American public to see what I have to say," which was fine with the Democrats because they have nothing to hide. But the Republican part of the Congress said no. They disagreed with him going publicly on video, and they said that he could testify in a closed-door meeting. Fortunately, there were some Democrats there who were willing to tell us how it really went, and the Democrats are saying that it went really bad for Trump. And as I said yesterday to some of my friends, when we were talking about it, I think having Jack Smith testify on the record as to what he looked into was a mistake. And for Trump to go after him is a misstep. That's a mistake, because you have to remember Jack Smith fully investigated. He had all of the evidence, all of the tapes, all of the witnesses on Mar-a-Lago. He had he interviewed everyone and put a case together on the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, where they beat and hurt police officers. And as a result, some of them even died. Some police officers had died either by their own hand or diseases following the January 6th attack. And so we're encouraging everybody to call in. We have lines open, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Darlene, one of our favorites. Go ahead, Darlene. You're on the phone with Leonard. What's going on?
Hi, Leonard. You're today. You're my favorite host. Leonard, bear with me today because we found some really horrible news before we come onto the air today about a NASCAR person. I don't know if you heard it, but any NASCAR people out there, Greg Biffle and his wife and 2 kids were killed in a plane crash this morning. And PTL gives you our heart because this is absolutely horrible. Okay, thank you, Leonard, for get that off my chest. But anyway, Leonard, listen, people, I've said it from day one, and I'm going to say it again. I want everybody to think about this. When is Trump going to rename the White House the Trump House?
I wouldn't put it past him, Darlene.
No, I've been saying this all along. I bet you that happens.
Well,
what are we going to do about this?
I think that well, the only thing we can do right now is obviously the midterms are going to make a big difference. But when there are two discharge petitions made it to the news that we're aware of. One did not. But when you start handing out discharge petitions to get around the Speaker of the House, and Trump said he is the Speaker of the House, even though Mike Johnson occupies a seat. But when you start doing that, do you think that maybe there's a ray of sunlight? Do you mean maybe some hope, Darlene? Maybe some cracks in the MAGA wall? What do you think?
I don't know. I about gave up, but I won't give up. As long as I have every breath in my body, I'm going to continue to fight against that blanking MAGA fool in the White House.
That's
all
why
I know
we
is
love
I
you,
hate
Darlene.
you, Trump. I hate you, Trump, and I want you to know I don't care. I hate you, and you're a despicable person in the White House, and we want you gone.
Are they, Darlene, are Trump and Hegseth and Johnson, are they real Christians? I mean, are they really Christians?
I fight with people about that every day, Leonard. Every day. I'm like Mark Wayne. I follow him and I call him out every day. Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma. I'm like, how can you be a Christian, but yet you agree with everything Trump does? But let me tell you what Mark Wayne does. Every single time he puts a post out, he's bragging about, I can't believe I'm a boy from Oklahoma that I was at the Christmas White House, or I get to do this, or I get to do that. He's always bragging about himself. That's all it is to him, is that he thinks he's some big shot because he's in there. And he's nothing. And he needs to get that in his head, because that is not what a Christian does.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
As Christians say, he's received his 30 pieces of silver, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm telling you, Leonard, I'm trying to get through this. It's just been
what you need to ask him
day.
next time you talk to Mark Wayne? You know what you need to ask him? You need to say, is it okay, according to the Bible and according to Christianity and the New Testament, is it okay for a Christian to worship or idolize an immoral person? Is that okay?
I don't understand that. I mean, I don't know that much about the Bible, but I do call I love God, and God is number one to me, and that will never change. But I don't understand these so-called Christians. That's what I put in there. I told him, I said, how can you be a Christian? You're not. I don't get it.
How can Mike Johnson
All
be
you
a Christian?
people need to look in the mirror and say, well, put it this way, Leonard. Let me ask you a question, and I'll tell everybody to think about this. If you're in quicksand and you're drowning, and you only got two choices, you got Trump or I'll say Biden. Who would you pick to save you?
Well,
Trump will float better. Trump will float better.
Oh, we got a comment from the producer.
Anyway, Leonard.
Well, the
you
thing
are
is,
great.
well, let me just answer, because I would save Joe Biden, and I understand that Joe Biden.
Are they going to save you? Who would you want to save you? In other words, do you think Trump would
stand there and he would say, "What's in it for me?" You say, "What do you got?" It's transactional. Everything's transactional. What's in it for me? How much money you got? What investments? Will you be loyal? Will you sign a loyalty pledge? If you sign a loyalty pledge, I'll help you out. Joe Biden would probably hurt himself trying to pull me out, and he would give it every effort.
Exactly.
How many times has he said that how great America is? He never said America needs to be great again. He never said that we need to go back in time. He never spoke badly about women. He never was rude to reporters. That is a good man. His legacy fell apart, toward the end of his presidency, and he got old. And when he lost that debate to Donald Trump, I mean, I think that was really the beginning of the end. At least in my mind, I saw that he could not handle it anymore. And so his legacy was soured at the end. But if you look at his infrastructure bill, if you look at some of the what he did with the unions and the workers and the prosperity, he had unemployment down to 4%. Inflation went up, and that's something I disagree with. But I would pick Joe Biden. Yeah. I would want him to save me every time.
I'm telling you. And I agree with David. I've said it all along, too. David, you're right. He is Satan's son. And I totally believe that. And before I go, Leonard, from all of us in PTL in the chat, we're all saying this. We love you. You're doing a great job, and we appreciate everything you do. And Numchuck, we love you too, and we appreciate you.
We love you guys too. And by the way, we have one of the best chat rooms that I've ever seen. It's interactive. It's supportive. Obviously, the people in there have empathy. You know, we get the occasional dumpster fire. We get the occasional troll or someone who just wants to be negative and needs negative attention. And like you've seen me say in the room, I mean, many of you have seen me. I feel like these are immature, negative people, maybe lonely, and they come in there and in my opinion, they mostly attack the women. They always have a negative comment, and they're trying to challenge with this gotcha question, like, "Oh, what do you think of this?" You know, and you're like, everybody is supposed to react to that. It's so stupid, you know. But again, I think it provides therapy for them because they're so negative. They get an emotional dump, and I would someday like to get my psychology license so I can send them a bill for helping them emotionally.
I'll be your first person because I need psychology. I need help, God forbid.
Okay.
Anyway, we appreciate you, Leonard. And
if I don't talk to you,
everybody
Darlene, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay safe, and you know, I hope you get everything you ever wish for.
Thank you.
All right,
Love you,
going
Leonard.
to the next caller. We're going to Fish Taco, which is a very interesting name. But Fish Taco, this is Leonard. What's on your mind?
I'm trying to figure that out too.
We're trying to get 1 second. I'm trying to get him on the line.
PTL, hello. Carrie, give me a minute here.
Fish Taco, line 2. Are you there? Okay, standing by. Let's see. Maybe we get somebody else on the line. Fish Taco. Hi, this is Leonard. What's on your mind?
Hello, Leonard. Listen, I just want to say really quick, I really enjoy your calm demeanor, your perspective and opinions on these really tough subjects that we're dealing with today. I mean, and I really love listening to you. And I also love Paul Rance. I don't know what happened to Paul. He was awesome.
Last time I talked to Paul, he was kind of taking off. So I think he's probably, I'm guessing he's doing very well.
Yeah, well, I listened to him. He's great. He's really great. I want to touch on a couple of things about Susie Wiles because as far as the little circle, I don't want to call it little, but the circle of progressives that in the media anyway found out when that Susie Wiles was going to be the chief of staff, we got a little concerned because she's actually very, very competent and very capable of getting things done. If you look at her past, if you look at what she's done, she started way back during Reagan's campaiging. You know,
she started out with much credibility. Yes, she did.
Yeah, I mean DeSantis. She managed Trump's. She was a campaign chairwoman for Trump in 2016 as well. So you know, it's a little troublesome. So, but what she's saying makes total sense because this is an intelligent, competent woman telling us what's going on, and you know. I've heard some other opinions that she thought she was only going to be there for 6 months. So she took the Vanity Fair interview even before she started. And it was a series of at least a dozen interviews.
Were you talking about in the room yesterday? Were you the one saying that it was strategy or it wasn't that bad? Because I have to totally disagree with you. I think she did a lot of damage and she confirmed a lot of bad behavior.
No, that wasn't me. I still think she did damage. Like I said,
yes.
If she thought she was only going to be there for 6 months, she opened up because she figured by the time this article is going to come out, I'll be gone. So who cares? But as we could see, you know, she's telling the truth. You know, I mean, and so the other thing I want to bring up, did you see the Trump with Miriam Adelson when he called her upstage?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
and she's talking about him running for a third term and giving him $250 million. And I think that she's a very, can I say wicked lady? Her husband bought the Review Journal, the biggest newspaper in Las Vegas. Nathan Adelson had purchased the Review Journal, and it took a whole new direction. And I think Glenn Cook is the editor in chief, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, and so it went from a very, in my opinion, because back when I was union president, you know, we were in negotiations with the city, so I was quoted in the newspaper quite often, and I always felt that the Review Journal was a fair and balanced type of newspaper. But once Adelson bought it, my opinion changed drastically.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, they have influence. They have money. And by the way, this is the second $250 million. I think everybody knows that. If she gives it to him, which just brings me to the point that these people are not stupid. They're playing Trump. He doesn't know it, but they are going to just you think they would? Do you think they care if they get him in? If he's like put him up on a stick for the third term?
No, Miriam Adelson is in it for her. She's in it for her investments and what she can get and the deregulations and to make sure that her vision of the world, her conservative or MAGA vision of the world, gets preserved. She offered him $250 million, which to us is a lot of money. But if you're going to run for president, you know, that would be helpful, but that's not going to be enough.
Yeah. It's full-blown corruption. You're not even allowed to do that. She did it right on stage. He said it out loud. I mean, I don't have the words. I don't even get mad anymore at this point. But that's what I wanted to say, Leonard.
Thanks, Fish Taco. You have a Merry Christmas. Thanks for calling. So next we're going to hit the super chat. Is that correct? So Chris Supertramp says, "Hi, Leonard. I'm curious. What will happen to the common street user of fentanyl if they get caught with it after it gets classified as a weapon of mass destruction?" That's actually a pretty good question. It's kind of an oversell because you can't. So if they're going to classify as a weapon of mass destruction, and you get caught with fentanyl on the street, whoever arrests you would have to go to the detectives and ask if they can do federal charges, which is not going to happen. If it's enough for a user and they just using it and they're on the street, they'll do state charges, and I'm not sure that makes a weapon of mass destruction. But it's an interesting comment because it just shows how Trump never sees the bigger picture, right? He just comes out and says, weapon of mass destruction, fentanyl, trying to justify his attacks in the Caribbean Sea. And he doesn't think of the bigger picture. He doesn't think, what does that really mean? What does that look like in real action? Like, what is a pragmatic approach to what he's saying? You see what I'm saying? And so thank you, Chris. That's generous of you and a good comment. We'll go back to who's going to be the next caller. What do you think, Numchuck? Jason. Oh, we love Jason. Jason, you're on with Leonard. What's on your mind?
First of all, if you didn't notice or not, all rich people now are mushroom gobblers. Period. The point blank. I watched CNN last night. They had this Wall Street guy get on, and he was such a mushroom gobbler. I'm telling you right now, the rich are so. Matter of fact, he bamboozled all the middle class, all the working poor that fell for the hokey doke. They fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Every rich person is so happy that Trump's in office because all they see is all the money they're going to line with their pockets. So I feel sad for all the mushroom middle class and low class mushroom gobblers that voted for this idiot because guess what? They're going to pay the price. And when your grandma can't go to the hospital to the ER, and she can't go to her doctor for stage 4 cancer, you voted for it. I digress.
Well, always lots of passion from you, Jason. But let me ask you, if you had to pick a Trump mushroom gobbler of the day, would it be Mike Johnson for closing the session early?
No. It's Caroline Levitt all day long.
Caroline Levitt she's still number one.
Matter of fact, she got such a bottom nose. It's ridiculous. She's so far up.
Hey, did you see that photo on social media? Caroline Levitt with the orange makeup on her nose, and people are like, where's her nose been? And you saw that?
Yes, I did, and that's where it belongs. Because she is the biggest lie. I don't know why she wears a cross. She should be wearing a pendulum that would say she represents.
What happened? Doesn't it say in the Bible that you can't bear false witness against your neighbor, i.e., lie about your neighbor? Doesn't it say that you have to treat foreigners with dignity and respect and feed them and help them? I mean, how can she be a Christian if she doesn't follow the Bible? Does that make any sense?
I got something better than that. If you follow a fool, you're still going to hell. It doesn't matter you didn't know. If you follow a fool, you are still going to hell. And so because he's following the mushroom dollar of the year, Trump himself, they're all going to hell.
Well, you know what, Jason, it's always good to hear from you, my brother. And keep up the passion. Try to influence as many people as you possibly can. Bring out the common sense. Bring out the critical thinking skills that some Americans have seemed to have lost. And have a Merry Christmas. I hope you get everything you want.
Leonard, I got one more thing to say.
Go ahead, Jason.
And this is the biggest thing for everybody that's listening or anybody you related to. I got a 30-day challenge. Every day, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 things that you're grateful for. Get a notebook and write it down for 30 days. And go back and see how grateful. Because right now, we're not looking for what we're grateful for. Because everything else looks so doom and gloom. But there's little things that we can be grateful for. And you know what I'm grateful for? Talk Radio, PTL, and you let it. And my man Brian. I'm grateful for that right now, right this minute. That's what I'm grateful for. Gotta get the air of that, my passion instead of going around hurting some mushroom gobbler. I digress.
Wait. Jay. You completely forgot me over here.
Oh, you can't forget Numchuck. Come on now.
Oh, that's my man over there. That's my man. 50 good at passing pants. I got Numchuck.
Thank you. I love Jay.
Okay. Thank you, Jason, for the call. Have a Merry Christmas. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again when Brian's back in the studio. Next, we have line 5, Dan. Is this Dan the Leonard fan?
What's up, Leonard?
How's it going, Dan? I think everybody in the room was waiting for you to call.
You know, I heard my name said 3 times in a mirror, and here I am.
You said the other day that you had a question for me, and I don't remember what it was regarding, but you're live on the air. Go ahead and shoot.
First off, I want to say this. Leonard, I'm digging the chains. I see you're going for the host. You're going for the host job. Dressed to impress. I like the chains you're rocking, first off.
Yeah, I was told that I need to dress more and not just wear a T-shirt.
Hey, the ladies love it.
So
the ladies love it.
So what was it? What was this question that you've been waiting to ask?
My question. So my question. This kind of goes back a little bit, and it came to a head recently. The House Oversight Committee recently released a report on the DC police that essentially confirmed that the chief, as well as some police commissioners, police commanders, and essentially higher ups in the department were manipulating data and manipulating reporting to give the appearance that crime was lower than it really was. And this was even before Trump put the National Guard there. And I believe that there was a commander or commissioner, you'd know more than me, that got suspended by the union on the recommendation of the union for that. So I guess my question is that something that's commonplace? Should we take police numbers, crime statistics with a grain of salt, or what's your experience opinion on that?
That's actually a good question, Dan. And for those of you listening, I am a retired police officer. I did 25 years. I retired as a police lieutenant and from the city of North Las Vegas. And I spent many a night, if not almost every night of my career as a supervisor, as a watch commander who controls the entire city. I'm responsible for everything that goes on in the city. The buck stops with me, and I spent much of my supervisor career as a watch commander, so I know a little bit about it. But when it comes to statistics, Dan, I would say that everyone needs to take them with a grain of salt, because one person's petty larceny and battery might be another person's robbery, because it fits the definition of robbery. But if it's just a petty larceny at, let's say, a Walmart and the person fights, that's a petty larceny battery, but you could also make it a robbery. And if you make it a robbery, that's a felony crime stat. If you make it a misdemeanor, nobody really pays attention because, no one's really keeping watching crime stats on how many misdemeanor petty larcenies there are. So the question is, it comes down to the police chief. It comes down to the police chief, the sheriff, and the staff. And are there some departments that manipulate the numbers? I'm sure there are. I'm sure they can manipulate the numbers as much as they want. They could say that something that looked like a murder was actually a suicide. They can say that a battery with a deadly weapon was just a simple misdemeanor battery because the person wasn't hurt that badly. And I hope that answers your question, but I would take it with a grain of salt.
So I guess what I'm thinking is, because what initially made me think about or see that initial report of the guy getting suspended, it was surrounding when Trump put the National Guard in DC. So thinking about it, it's hard to look at it and not think, hey, there's some sort of political reason to say, hey, the crime is lower, we don't need the guard, or the crime is higher, we do need the guard. And, I know obviously this show is mainly Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, but I just thought it was something interesting to note here.
Well, I know Trump says that he took care of crime in DC.
Kind of led to that.
I know he said he took care of crime in DC and all these other cities where he put the National Guard, but there's a thing called the crime displacement theory. So when you go into an area, let's say that my administration says, I want the officers in this certain area because the crime is bad and we want what they call zero tolerance. That means everybody goes to jail, everybody gets a ticket. All you do is you displace that crime and you put out the stats, and it's mostly political, right? It could tie into federal grants. It could tie into money that you're asking for from the federal government, depending on what stat you're talking about. But once you leave, police cannot stay in one area forever. Okay. And so the zero tolerance stops someday, and all the crime that you displaced just slowly comes back. And by the way, while you're doing zero tolerance, that means mothers who forgot to renew their license and grandmothers that parked their car in a bad spot are all getting tickets. And do they really deserve that just because some politician somewhere wants to look good and say that they cut down on crime? So
right.
To answer your question,
I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's a little bit different versus, petty traffic crimes versus zero tolerance on like violent crimes, assault.
Well, when we go into an area, Dan, there is no distinction. Is zero tolerance. And I think what you're alluding to is the U.S. Capitol Police officer, Stephen's son, that resigned shortly after, saying that he requested.
No.
He requested
that's not what I was
National Guard. Oh, I thought that's what you're referring to, because he requested help. The intelligence broke down. They hid the intelligence, and so I would say that January 6th was a total debacle. And some people even say that the intelligence was held back so that the attack could take place. That's one theory.
Right. I think that's a little different from what we were initially talking about from, crime statistics versus January 6th. But
well, anyway, that's my answer. And I appreciate you calling. And I think you're probably have some decent communication skills, but, I'm probably a lot older than you, so I'm not afraid to say it in the way I'm saying. I think maybe you could be a little more helpful and friendly, because sometimes you rub people the wrong way. So,
Leonard, I dish it out, and people think I dish it out the same way I take it.
Yeah, but when you have females in the room saying that's enough and you've gone too far, and but anyway,
people who are listening are adults.
But you know what? There's also decency.
If you get offended by words over a YouTube chat, maybe you need to look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, I think that
Tina?
I think that being a MAGA might make things more difficult for you, and so I do appreciate the call. Have a Merry Christmas. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people waiting, and I need to get to. Let's go to Terry. Terry, it's Leonard. What's on your mind?
Hi, good afternoon, Leonard. Good to have you with us. I didn't want to waste an hour of my time last night watching the orange-haired idiot deliver a speech. I absolutely refuse to do it. I did catch some clips today. For the life of me, I just cannot understand why he even bothered to give a speech to the American people. He's just spreading the same.
It was a big
lies.
nothing ball. It was a word salad.
Absolutely, it was. Oh my God! You know, same old stuff, spreading lies, blaming everything on Biden, of course. And actually, it's just getting old. And, you know, this guy's got a math problem because apparently he's never opened a damn math book ever. And has he ever walked into a math class? The 600% cut for drugs, are you
right? The 400. It's going to be 500. It's going to be 600. It's going to be 1,500. So basically, the insurance company would be cutting you a check every month.
I mean, does he think we're stupid, Leonard? I'm asking that question.
I think he talks to one base.
Stupid?
I think he talks to people that he thinks are stupid, which is his base. And I have friends and family that are MAGAs, and I talk to them, and I'm telling you right now, Terry, you cannot reason with an unreasonable person. You cannot reason with someone who's in a different reality, who has a different set of numbers and a different. If Trump said tomorrow, just so you know, water's not wet, do you know that 33% of America would agree with him?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
I'm serious. If he said the earth is flat,
lack of literacy here,
and they would
Leonard.
say, well, no, we can show you that the earth is round and, you know, it curves at this certain point. It looks like it's flat. Well, Trump said it's flat and it's a conspiracy. It's a Democratic conspiracy to say the earth is round. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I can tell you right now, in terms of you know, the cost of things right now, I could put a damn receipt in front of him. I could show 2 receipts where him and his base, where a product has gone up $4 in the last half a month, and they wouldn't believe me. They would say it was some kind of AI generated thing that I created. I mean, it's just unfathomable. It is unbelievable.
I know, Terry. But
and then just one other thing on the whole issue with the Affordable Care Act. A neighbor friend of mine put a post out recently in the last day or two where she said her premium was only $1.89, and I believe that she has a very low premium because she has disabilities.
Right, it's
anyway,
based on income and disability. That's correct. Yeah,
her premium is now going to be $757. With a $9,000
deductible.
Oh, what do you call? Yes, deductible.
Okay, so if you're gonna have a $9,000 deductible, why even have insurance, right?
Exactly, and I'm thinking there is no way, knowing her, that she is going to be able to afford that. That's impossible.
You know what, Terry? I know it's getting you down, but let's try to stay positive for the holidays and you know, keep your opinion. Don't give up. Try to spread, you know, what you believe is right to as many people as possible, and I hope all your wishes come true for Christmas.
Thank you, Leonard, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Leonard, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Thanks, Terry. Which line are we going to? Line 1, Shell. Oh. We're going to line 2, Mathan. Mathan, this is Leonard. How are you?
Hi, Leonard. This is Nathan. I just wanted to say you're doing a great job, first of all.
Thanks, Nathan.
And mostly, I just wanted to hold on. Let me turn this down. I just wanted to say happy holidays to you and all of my fellow officers and dispatchers. I am a former dispatcher for Fillmore Police Department. I'm retired from there now, but
well, thank you for your service, Nathan.
I know how hard it is during the holidays, especially for all my fellow officers out there, and I'm still out there supporting them.
You know, Nathan, I happen to know that dispatchers take their job very seriously, and they really care about the police officers. They look out for them. They dispatch to them. They give them information. And I would like to say, you know, you have a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday also. And thank you for your service, because I know how difficult it can be.
Thank you, and thank you for your service too, and have a great holiday.
Okay, let's go to Herb, line 5. Line 5, Herb, it's Leonard. What's on your mind?
Hey, Leonard, how you doing, buddy? Listen, you had made a comment a minute ago about you in North Las Vegas, you dispatched officers, you know, when you were working. let's say, for example, you weren't working. Let's say you were still working at the time now, and ICE agents began to do a raid over at, say, Home Depot or something, and they were under attack. Let's say a mob had formed, and they were surrounding the ICE officers, and they called for backup from the Las Vegas police. Would you send officers over there?
Of course. It makes no difference which side is getting victimized or which side is having violence. I don't condone violence on either side, but I think what you really want to ask is what would I do if I went to Home Depot and the ICE officers were violating the rights of citizens and they were throwing them on the ground and they were using excessive force? Because at that point, I might lose my job because I would not tolerate them breaking any law. And it doesn't matter if the citizens were attacking ICE or ICE was attacking the citizen. It doesn't matter. If you're breaking the law, if you're violating people's rights, you get arrested. And if I told my officers to do it and they wouldn't, I'd have to arrest them myself.
Okay, well, you answered the question. I mean, I wasn't asking what you would do if you were civilian, you were off duty. I'm asking what you would do if you were dispatching officers. And you said you would dispatch them. So, okay, that answers the question.
Yeah, you have to.
I mean, I wasn't sure. Okay, buddy.
All right, we got to get to some more calls. Let's go to Paul. Thanks, Herb.
Okay, buddy.
Paul, you there? It's Leonard.
Hey, Leonard, how you doing?
What's on your mind?
I'd like to make a little announcement, and the announcement is that Joe Biden and Barack Obama are no longer president. So if these MAGA
you felt they didn't do a good job, or you're saying that the MAGAs need to get over it, they need to move on.
The MAGAs need to keep their mouths shut, and they did a tremendous job.
Why do you think Trump's so obsessed with Obama? Why do you think he's jealous of the Peace Prize? Why do you think he's jealous of Obamacare? Why do you think he's jealous of how successful Obama? What do you think? What do you think it is?
Well, I think number one, the classiness of those two. That's one of the things, and
humanity.
They're getting so humanity, but also compare the jobs all three of them did, and you'll find that Biden and Obama had to rescue from the previous administration.
Well, it's been that way since the beginning of time. The Republicans spend all the money and then the Democrats get in and they save all the money only to have another Republican get in and spend all the money and then blame the Democrats. But we really appreciate your call, Paul. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hope that you get everything you want. No? Okay. It looks like we're getting ready to wrap it up for the day. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for the comments in the room. It seems like it was a good, productive, informative day. A lot of people, worried about the future. Stay with it. Get informed. Stay informed. Spread the word. That's what I say. Call your congressman. It's not a waste of time. Call your senator. It's not a waste of time. Call your local politicians if you think you need to, because it's never a waste of time to call them and tell them what you think. They do listen, even though sometimes they act like they don't. If I don't see you next week, because I don't know the schedule, I would like to wish everyone in the PTL Nation a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I know that I will be spending it with my friends and my loved ones, and I'm looking forward to every minute of it. Thank you for coming by. What do you got there?
Remember, tomorrow we have Nick Bonsanto filling in.
We have Nick Bonsanto filling in tomorrow for Brian Shapiro from 12 to 2.
And then Brian will be back Monday.
Brian will be back. Brian Shapiro will be back Monday. And back in studio.
Jet lagged Brian Shapiro.
Jet lag and tired from talking. Well, he doesn't ever really get tired from talking, does he? So he'll be back Monday, and I'm sure that everyone's looking forward to that. Have a great holiday. From Leonard Cardinelli and the PTL family signing off. Thanks for coming by.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero. Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas
Good morning,
Ice Warriors,
sunshine.
founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting
Hello,
line.
sir.
Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
What's up, birthday boy?
You
We
are
having
way
fun
too
yet?
smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant
Of
to be
course,
making
I was gonna
way
say,
more
of
money,
course you did.
feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NIKOLE,
Yeah, of course it is.
MITCHELL.com.
No, the first segment is nonsense, Stevie. We all know this.
And I will be happy to be in touch and figure out
No,
what
it's
you're
not a
doing
shot.
and how
It's
to
the
support
truth.
you in getting there.
Here's the deal. The country's
It's
a
a
mess,
little hot.
and America's
Wow,
youth is
I just
stuck at the
realized
center
that.
of a tug-of-war
He's
between
hot.
propaganda, billionaires,
Damn,
and
don't
political
do that
clowns
shit.
who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email.
Right.
But the real threat
Right there.
that keeps them up at night isn't
Right
TikTok.
there.
It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the
Maybe
Unfuck
down
America
a
Tour
hair.
is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing
Go-
the right wing's playbook
Go
and calling out
left
all the
with it.
tricks
Go
they
left
use to
with
hook
it.
young
Go
people.
sideways.
We
Turn
saw
it-
the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future. Our
Right
future.
there, right there, right there,
We're
right there,
not
right there.
bankrolled by
Right there.
billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like
You guys are-
who
you
won't
guys
sit
are
back
dead
while the rich
perfect.
strip
It's
this
perfect
country for
together.
parts.
Dead
We
perfect.
need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but